This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
And welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over how a suction pool cleaner works. This may sound elementary to you if you've, of course, been in the industry for a while, but I'm going to give you some tips as well to make the suction pool cleaners work better for you. And I'll go over some different picks of suction pool cleaners also for the pools on your route. If you're looking to expand your pool service or get support out in the field, or if you just want one-on-one coaching, join my coaching program with over 270 members and growing. Learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Believe it or not, a lot of new people entering the business are kind of puzzled by the suction pool cleaner. And as I thought about it some more, I realized that yes, it can be a little complicated when you're looking at a suction side pool cleaner to kind of figure out how this thing actually works. And the name itself kind of describes what it does. It connects to the suction side of the pool, which is through the skimmer side port. Now, a side port is something that a builder would put into a pool that is a secondary suction port, and this is primarily made for the suction side cleaner. Here in California, Arizona, probably parts of Nevada, it's probably extremely popular to have a pool with a suction port installed or built with a suction port with a valve by the equipment to control it. So it connects either at the skimmer or at the side port, and is controlled by the pool's filtration system. So if you're running it on a variable speed pump, it's going to run at a lower speed. If you have the speed set for a lower RPM, it'll run faster at a higher RPM, and then you have to make some adjustments. So the main thing to know is that it does run off of the suction side of the pool, and there is some fine tuning and adjusting depending on if it's a single speed pump, a variable speed pump, where you have it connected, which type of cleaner, what kind of regulator valve the cleaner comes with, and so forth. Now that I probably won't touch on too much because that's more of a setup type podcast, and I probably should make a podcast on the best way to set up the cleaners, and I'll work on that at a later date. But it's just to say that it does connect to the suction side of the pool. So when the pump is on, if you have an automatic timer, when the time clock turns on, the suction cleaner is going to run as long as the pool is running. So if you have the pool set for 10 hours, that cleaner is going to work for 10 hours on the bottom of the pool. And then when you turn off the power to the pool, the cleaner will stop moving at that point. So it's directly connected to the pool equipment. I like to liken a suction cleaner as if you're standing out there for 8 hours a day. You have your pool pole, you have your manual vacuum head, you have your 50-foot pool hose, you have it connected to the skimmer, and you're out there vacuuming the pool back and forth all day long. So let me dig into the questions here that I get asked often about suction side cleaners. The first one, I think I went over already. How do they work? That's not a typical question, but I do get asked that once in a while. But I am asked a lot, how do they know what area of the pool to clean, or how do they know the cleaning pattern? Is there some kind of program? Now, there's some misleading advertisements sometimes on these suction cleaners. I think I saw one that, I don't think it was an American cleaner, but I know I saw where it said, it has a cleaning program. Really, it doesn't have any kind of cleaning program per se. There's no microchip in there. It's not a robotic pool cleaner. How it works is two different ways. There are two types. There's the bouncing type cleaner, as I call them. They just bounce around the pool. And then there's the gear type. They have gears in them. So I'll go over the gear type real quick. Hayward Navigator is probably the most familiar gear type. Then you have the Hayward Pool Cleaner. And you also have the MX cleaners from Zodiac and Polaris. Basically, how these work are the Max and the Atlas cleaner, as they're known from Polaris. The MX cleaners are the Zodiac versions of those. Basically, the gears it's kind of like a clock with plastic gears in there. And if you've ever seen like how a grandfather clock is working with all the gears turning, very similar concept with the gear type cleaner. There's one main gear in the Hayward Pool Cleaner. It's called the cam. and it has notches, and so it'll kind of spin with all the smaller gears as they're spinning. The water, by the way, is what's propelling all these gears. So the suction of the pump is making all these gears spin in the cleaner, and at one point it'll lock on one side. The cleaner will have one wheel still moving, and then the other wheel is locked up, and then it'll kind of pivot because one wheel is locked and turn. And that's kind of how it does the pattern. How often the cam locks up, maybe about every 10 to 12 feet with the 2-wheel version of the pool cleaner, and then every 15 feet with the 4-wheel version. And there really is no cleaning pattern except it moving in that direction, the wheel locking, and then it's turning and pivoting in another direction. And it's pretty simple and it's pretty easy to operate. There's nothing that's highly scientific beyond the fact that the gears will stop at some point depending on which cleaner it is and turn it. The Hayward Navigator has actually a gearbox on top as well, but it does have a gearbox inside there. It's a little white box inside the Navigator. All the gears are in there, the small little gears. Amazingly, those little gears actually are well made that you rarely have to change the gearbox in a Navigator. The part that wears out are the turbine and the A-frame on those. So really a well-made and well-designed cleaner. In fact, the person that designed the Navigator, the Sand Shark, the Pentair, was it the Great White, I think it's called, and the pool cleaner, the Pool Vernugan, was the same person. He worked on the team with the other ones, but then he made his own pool cleaner, the Pool Vernugan pool cleaner. Hayward bought that out, and now it's the Hayward Aquanaut in Phoenix. I know I'm going a little off track here, but I just wanted to explain that this guy was a genius, and he designed a lot of these gear type cleaners that you see out there. I really think the gear type cleaners are superior. Now the balancing cleaners have either a diaphragm or a hammer inside there and a flapper, and this is what propels them. Basically, there's no pattern. It just moves with the flow. If you have return jets, it may push it a little bit in one direction, but it kind of just moves with it just flowing on the bottom. And amazingly, it does a really good job of getting full coverage of the pool in most cases, up the walls, down the sides. There's nothing really controlling it. It's just randomness. And, after running for 8 hours, something moving randomly in the pool is going to leave it pretty clean. It's just like if you were standing there again with your pool hose, your manual vacuum head, the hose connected to the skimmer, and you were just kind of blindfolded and moving it back and forth across the pool. Eventually, after 8 hours of doing that, with a couple bathroom breaks, you would have the pool pretty much clean, the same concept. So there really is no programming. It just moves randomly based on the components of the cleaner. Another question I get asked, and this is regarding the hoses. A lot of questions revolve around the hoses, so I'll just kind of give you some key points of the questions I get. One that I've been getting lately is because of the solar surface cleaners. They're pretty popular. You have the iPair Surfer, you have the SMONet, you have the Beta. Before that, you had the Solar Breeze, and a lot of these cleaners don't really navigate the automatic cleaner hoses well. They'll kind of be blocked by them, won't get the full coverage of the pool because they run into the hoses and they kind of get stuck in that area. One way to help is to get some hose weights, and I've done this when I had a lot of the Solar Breezes in the pool. It was really effective. So you would want to get some hose weights. You can buy them on Amazon, they do sell them, and you would clip them on strategically so that the main section of the hose now you don't want to put too many on because then it'll sink it down and won't be effective. It was actually this device many, many years ago, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, where it would actually sink the hoses to the bottom when you're using your pool. It was a really cool idea. I can't remember what the product was called. I did have one Surface account that had this, and basically it would just sink the hoses down to the bottom. I can't remember how it even worked, but that's a pretty smart concept so that when you're using your pool, you don't have to take the hoses out. I'll address that in a minute about using the pool with the hoses in there. But as far as the solar surface cleaners, weights on the hoses in strategic areas will sink the hoses down about 2 inches under the water, which will allow the solar cleaner to work and kind of get around them. Now, you can't do the entire thing, but up to where the hoses are angling down towards the head of the cleaner, I would put a weight there. I'd put another weight a little further back, and then almost to where it's coming out of the wall, I might put a weight there. So maybe 4 or 5 weights would lower that hose in the water low enough for the solar cleaner to get past 90% of the hoses, which is better than nothing. and it's a pretty effective way to have a suction cleaner in the pool with a solar cleaner. Now, as far as using the pool with the hoses in there, it's kind of a pain. You can use them, but I've had many customers break the hoses or tear them or step on the cleaner and break the cleaner while they're using their pool. I even had one pool cleaner, pool Verdugan pool cleaner, where the kids are like riding it underwater. It's kind of weird, but literally that's what they were doing, and they broke a wheel off. So definitely you want to take the cleaner out of the pool when you're having a party. If you have it connected at the skimmer, you would want to, of course, put a skimmer basket back in and make sure that no debris gets in there. A really quick plug for my product, the hole-in-one basket. This is a basket I designed with a hole in the center. It's ideal for a suction cleaner connected at the skimmer because you would just feed the hose through the hole in the skimmer basket, and there's no need to remove the skimmer basket. Now, if you're having a party and you are going to remove the cleaner, you would want to remove the hole-in-one basket, put in the regular skimmer basket, which you would have somewhere by your equipment. That way any debris gets in there, it will be stopped by the skimmer basket. I can't tell you how many times I've seen pool parties where they took out the cleaner, didn't put the skimmer basket back in, and something got into the line, either water balloons. I even had a t-shirt get sucked into the skimmer line and clog up the system. Don't ask how I got that out. It was really complicated, but basically it was using CO2 gas to blow the t-shirt out of the lines. And it's something that is important so that nothing gets clogged in there. I had a thermometer get stuck in the skimmer and actually had to call a builder out to really kind of retrofit that skimmer to get that out. It was stuck at a weird angle and they had to clear that out of the skimmer. So definitely you want to have the basket back in there if you take the suction cleaner out. The hole-in-one basket is a great aftermarket basket. As I mentioned, you can buy that on Amazon. It's a great way to connect your automatic cleaner at the skimmer and not worry about having no basket, because having a basket will actually prevent a lot of the leaf debris from clogging up the regulator on the particular suction cleaner that you're using. And then if you have it connected to the side port, you would want to turn off the side port suction. Kind of important. A lot of people will remove the cleaner from the side port and leave that port on. But if you have a vac lock that closes it, hopefully you have a vac lock on there. But if you don't close it and take off the cleaner, that line is actually active and someone can put their hand in there and it could cause some kind of entrapment. So you want to make sure the side port is turned off. And if you're using a side port, you would want to use a vac lock to prevent any kind of entrapment on that. And I would take the hoses off by section and lay them in the equipment area. And I would carefully put the cleaner somewhere where it's not going to get broken. I don't think it's advisable to coil the hoses up like a regular pool cleaning hose, because then it'll remember that, have a memory, and you'll just have a cleaner going in circles all the time. So it's not something advisable or ideal, and I would not want you to have a problem with the hoses later by coiling them up in a tight circle. You would want to put them somewhere where you can take the hose sections off one by one and store them somewhere safely. Now, another question I get asked often is what kind of debris a suction cleaner can pick up. Now, if you simply look at the bottom of the suction cleaner, you'll notice that the hole in the bottom is pretty small. That's small for a reason, because if it was any bigger, or if the diaphragm or the flapper and the creepy crawly were any bigger, or the hole was any bigger, it wouldn't operate properly because it's really using a small amount of the pressure to make it work. So if the hole was like 1.5 inches wide, it just wouldn't function properly just because of how these cleaners work off of the suction of the pool. Just like your manual vacuum, when you look at the bottom of the manual vacuum head that you have, it's probably only about 1 inch in diameter as a circle. You can't get much bigger than that. And it's something that just is innately built into the cleaner. So they're going to have a smaller capacity for picking up larger debris. So any leaf debris or anything that's larger than maybe a medium-sized acorn is going to jam up the cleaner because it's just not designed for a lot of large leaf debris. If it rolls over a pile of oak leaves on the bottom of the pool, expect it to get jammed up with the debris because it can't separate the leaves quickly enough, and the opening is so small again that it's going to clog up the suction cleaner. One thing I do recommend is an inline canister. This will prevent the debris from going into the line and possibly clogging it up, or clogging up the Jandy valve in front of the line, or clogging up the skimmer basket, pump basket I mean. So all of this is prevented by an inline canister. I like the mesh inline canisters better, the mesh bags. I like the Pentair canister that has the mesh bag in there. And I also like the Hayward larger canister. It has a mesh bag. So those are my preferred inline canisters. I think it's a great idea to have that. That way you're not, again, going to clog up the line. And as the pump basket gets full of debris, it's going to affect how the cleaner flows anywhere it moves in the pool. So if you didn't have an inline canister and it picked up enough debris to fill up the pump basket, since the suction cleaner is controlled by the suction of the pool, what's going to happen is that it's going to have less suction or less power and not work effectively. But if you had an inline canister, all the leaf debris would be trapped in there, and there's no worry about it going into the pump basket and clogging that up. So I think a lot of problems arise from not having that inline canister, and I highly recommend it with a suction cleaner, especially if there's a lot of leaf debris in your pool and you have a tendency to have that pump basket clogged up. So that's like some brief questions about suction cleaners. I have more on my list here, so I'll probably do a part 2 at some point and give you some more questions that I normally get regarding suction side pool cleaners. If you're looking for other podcasts that I have recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon. That'll take you to a drop-down menu of other podcasts I've recorded. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless.